Okay, welcome to the fourth episode of the Phil Henry Show here in Bangor, Maine. I have a very special guest today, Scott Boucher, friend of mine who lives in the area, finds his employment in the area, runs a business in the area, and is very, very active in the community with respect to Rotary Club and a bunch of other stuff. So, Scott, welcome. Glad you could make it.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So, I guess to start, it'd be nice if you could just tell me, because I really don't know. Where are you from? What's going on? I know approximately your age. You're probably similar to me, in your 40s, I think, maybe?
Early
perhaps?
40s. Just
Early
crossed
40s.
over to that 41 threshold, so yes.
All right, good. So, yeah, if you could.
So, born and raised in Presque Isle, Maine. Grew up in Aroostook County. Never had any intentions of leaving Aroostook County. Love the area. My family's all up there. So, went to college at Umpy. Graduated Umpy, was working for a business, and had the opportunity to come down to Bangor. Yep. Really fought it because I didn't want to come to the big city. I always joke around about coming down to the big city of Bangor. But once I got down here after 12 months, I fell right in love with the area. So now this is really where I call my home. My wife is actually also from Presque Isle. I actually lived down here for 5 years. Dated different people in the area, but never really found the right person. And it took me going all the way back home to Presque Isle to find my wife.
Wow.
So, yeah,
wow.
So,
and I know Dina, nice lady,
Dina,
very nice lady.
yes.
Actually, for people that don't know, I have a feeling I know Umpy what it is, but what is that?
Sorry, University of Maine at Presque Isle. So
University of Maine, Presque Isle.
Yeah,
Okay.
the Presque Isle campus of the University of Maine system.
Okay.
So both Dina and I both graduated from the University of Maine up there.
Okay.
So that was where we knew each other in college growing up, and we were friends for about 6 years before we actually started dating. And then she took the leap of faith when we started dating to move down to Bangor also.
She followed you down, and you hadn't even asked her to get married yet?
She followed me
just
down.
followed you
She
down
followed
here
me down.
without that level of commitment.
Quite the catch. No, I'm just
Without that level of commitment, though, Scott. Wow, that's it, man. You have it. You got it. You got it. That's it. So, so you came down here, and what were you doing initially? Because what did you take, business? I can't remember.
Yeah, so I was actually, when I started the University of Maine, I actually was an environmental science major.
Okay.
Coming out of high school, I was really interested in being outdoors, science, and stuff like that. Did that for my freshman year, and after my freshman year, I had to take a year off from school for some medical procedures. And after I came back, after that year off, I said, you know what? I really wanted to find a job in Maine that I didn't have to relocate, something that was a degree that could be applied to any other job. So I chose the business management practice.
Okay.
The good news is, while I was taking my year off, one of my friends who I went to high school with, her father had a business in the area in Presque Isle. He was a financial service firm. And so she was talking to her dad saying, hey, is there anything that Scott might be able to do to help out your firm? He's kind of laid up with a medical procedure. Anything he could do from his house, from a computer would be great. And so I got hooked up with Marcus Barresi, the founder of Barresi Financial.
Yeah.
And Marcus actually hired me to help him out with a website, starting up that, a database, just doing some stuff from my computer.
Okay.
And after I did that for a few months, I actually went in as an intern for a whole year. So I actually, between my sophomore year and my junior year in college, I started an unpaid internship. I just wanted to take a chance to get in to know the business.
Right. Nice way to get into, an area of business.
I wanted to
build
get
a
the
reputation.
I wanted to build up a reputation.
For sure.
In Aroostook County, Marcus Barresi had a great business reputation. And so even my own mother said, if you can get a reference from Marcus Barresi on your resume, you're going to be already ahead of the game. So I really saw that as an investment in my own time. I was working at a lumber yard at the time, kind of working a hardware store type of business. But I started doing this. Marcus had me come in at 6 a.m. I was coming in early mornings before classes, did a few hours of work. In between classes, he said, anytime you have time free, just come back to the office. So I was doing a lot of his prep work, filing, just really the basic fundamentals of the business. And after doing that for 12 months, he actually hired me on. He said, you know what? You've built yourself into a job. I really don't know what I'm going to do if you leave, so I need to hire you on and actually pay you.
Create value.
It was a great value. So I always tell people, when I'm talking to college kids all the time, they say, I want to find a paid internship. And I said, paid internships are great, but you want to find out where can you get the best reference and where can you get the best work experience, and just building that resume. Where are the good opportunities? Right. And sometimes that's unpaid. I mean, I had to carry a full-time job and go to school and do this on the side, but I knew that sacrifice was going to pay off in the long run. So when I graduated, my senior year, I was actually a full-time employee of the firm. And not many of my classmates had a job lined up coming out of college. Right. I was very fortunate. I didn't have to do anything.
Tough economic time.
It was a tough time. Aroostook County is a challenge to have,
not
a good
the
paying
mecca.
job.
It's not the mecca of opportunity, let's say.
Unfortunately not. The population is leaving. It's a downtime. It's hard to make a living in Aroostook County, especially if you're looking for a profession.
Unless you're a biathlete.
Unless you're a biathlete, then you've got some great facilities.
That's right.
So I was able to really go right into my full-time job.
Yep.
And after I did that for a few years in Presque Isle, we knew that we wanted to grow the firm.
Yeah.
And it was my opportunity as a young professional saying, you know what, I could really want to make a name for myself.
Yeah.
So when Marcus brought the idea to me about opening up a Bangor office, I said, sure, let me go down there for 12 months. I'll get it open, see if I can really like the community or not. But I really wasn't sold of being here full time. I really wanted that out. So I said, after 12 months, if I'm not happy down there, can I come back to Presque Isle?
Right.
And he was more than happy to work with me on that.
Okay.
And so that was in 2001. And then in 2001, I came down here, started knocking on doors. Nobody knew the name of Barresi Financial. Nobody knew what our organization did.
Right.
And it was a lot of time. Marcus really invested in me, giving me the opportunity to say, okay, I know that you're not going to bring business in immediately, day number one.
Yeah.
But over the next 2 to 3 years, just start building those centers of influence, start getting a name established, getting involved in the community. And fast forward now in 2018, we've got a great presence here in the Central Maine area with our firm. So we're really happy.
Very nice. Interestingly enough, I find that a lot of business owners, especially if you're going to go after a new market like you guys did, they don't realize that there's a level of investment required and there's a level of time to be able to build the trusting relationships you need to build in order to be successful, right? So for him to understand that, like trusting you to come down here, but not only that, but trusting the process and the time commitment and the financial commitment to be able to ramp that up,
yes,
right? As a loss.
Yep, and it's a loss.
Right?
You got to look
For
at
the
it. You're going to be losing money in the first few years of anything like a venture like that.
Most definitely.
So in our financial service firm, so we do both financial services, so retirement plans, individual investments.
Yeah.
We also do employee benefits, specifically health insurance, dental insurance on businesses.
Nice.
But in the financial service world, we have an 85% failure rate in our industry. 85% of the people that try to go to become a financial planner, to become a financial service agent, usually fail. And a lot of times it's set up to fail in the industry. And I hate to say it that way, but you really do get recruited by these large national companies. They're looking for you to go out and sell policies to all your mums and dads and aunts and uncles.
Yeah.
But then after 24 months, if you're not making contract, they cut and move on from you.
Gotcha.
We are the exact opposite. We've really invested in the people that we brought onto our firm. We really know that, okay, it's going to take 2 to 3 years for them to even get their feet underneath them. And I'm not looking to have somebody just come in for a splash. I really am trying to invest in staff that's going to be here 10,
long
14,
term,
18
for the
years.
long term. Yeah.
And so right now I'm investing in the next generation that's going to come in behind me. That's really what we look at in our firm is, okay, now that we're 41 years old, 20 years from now, who's going to be the next ones to step in our roles and kind of take over the business? So it's an investment strategy. It really is.
You definitely want to have an exit strategy for sure. I mean, as you come in and then mentoring new people coming up. One of the things we glossed over, I'd love if you could share more details on, is that you had alluded to the fact that you had to go at some point during UMPI or University of Maine Presque Isle, you had to leave because of some surgery, some medical things. Maybe you could elaborate on what that is, because I don't know exactly what transpired there.
So when I was born as a child, I was actually born with a disease called Legg-Calvé-Perthes. It's not very common. It was actually the lack of blood flow to some of my joints, and it specifically affected my hip sockets. So when I was born, I was actually born without parts of my hip sockets being fully formed. And so my mom and dad had no clue about this. This was back in the 70s. For the first couple of years, they always thought I was a late walker. They just never thought I was ever going to be a fast athlete or anything like that. But they started noticing that when I did try to walk, I was tumbling, falling down. They couldn't pinpoint what was going on until they took me to an orthopedic surgeon. And after a series of x-rays, they realized this child is missing parts of their hip sockets. So it got us into a process at a young age that really kind of understood the medical field at age 5. My parents were told to take me to the Shrine Hospital. So I always like to try to give a plug to the Shriners and all the great work they did for me. But at 5 years old, the Shriners in Springfield, Massachusetts took me in, performed a series of surgeries on me at age 5. It was to the point where I was actually in the hospital for over 4 months in Springfield. My mom and dad still being in Presque Isle, Maine. They literally had to know that this was the best for my health well-being. They brought me down there knowing that I was going to be strapped to a bed. I actually, it sounds medieval torture, but they actually had sandbags in my legs to pull my hip sockets apart. So they could go in and do a hip replacement for me and actually start building myself back up. So I give my parents a lot of credit because they were both working full-time jobs. Hard workers.
Two working parents in your
older sister that was 4 years older than me. Bringing a family in Presque Isle, Maine, driving their kid 9 hours south to Springfield, Massachusetts.
Leaving him there at 5 years old.
5 years old.
For those of you who have kids, 5 years old is fairly young.
Now that I have an 8-year-old, it's hard to imagine.
It's hard to imagine leaving your 8, let alone 5-year-old. But go ahead,
But they knew it was in my best interest that this is what I needed to do in order to actually live a healthier life. So I give them all the credit because Friday afternoons, they get out of work at 4 o'clock. Jump in the car from Presque Isle, Maine, drive all night to get down to Springfield, be at the hospital at Saturday morning, 8 a.m., visit with me all day Saturday, visit with me all day Sunday, staying in a hotel room, staying at the Ronald McDonald House, and then driving back on Sunday night all the way back to Presque Isle so they could be back to work on Monday morning.
Right.
And they did that for over 4 months straight, just while I was going through this first set of procedures.
Incredible.
After that point, each summer, I'd always have to go back down to the Shriner Hospital to have different surgeries. Thankfully, I've had over a dozen surgeries from the Shriners, all free of charge. And you would think that it was definitely a challenging, at 5 years old, I don't have a full amount of memories from that hospital stay, but I don't have nightmares. That's one of the things I always say is, it was always sad to see my mom and dad go, but it was such a caring, nurturing environment that they made it really fun for the kids to be at the hospital with all the Shrine clowns and everything else they did for activities. They actually taught classes there. They had school teachers coming in. So I did that for an extended period of time. And then every summer I was going back down to have more work being done. But literally my parents were told by the orthopedic surgeon what I needed to have done for, orthopedic surgeries they couldn't afford. They weren't going to be able to take care of it, period. And it wasn't going to be able to be done in Aroostook County. They had to take this step in order to get the best care.
Well, one of the things that comes, as you're explaining this situation, the first thing that comes to mind is that I'm familiar at least with the level of invasiveness when it comes to surgeries around the hip. I mean, literally, you're slicing open, you're getting deep in, it's really not a very surface level procedure. So, and I think about that, and I think about 5-year-old young boy in Springfield, Massachusetts. Do you feel like, you said you have okay memories of it. I'm thinking like post-traumatic stress is what is coming to my head. I'm thinking like that is like, I know people have experienced much less traumatic situations than that, and some of those things have been challenges as they become adults to kind of work through, not because of that experience. But
so for me, I think if you're so young and I didn't have, it was what I grew up knowing. It's really what my environment that I knew of is being in these hospital settings, and it gave me an appreciation for what kids were. And I'll also tell you that when you're a kid and you're in this hospital, my hip problem was a challenge. But when you see the spinal cord injuries, things that kids were being, paralyzed from the waist down, and some other situations, it made me very thankful for what I had. It could have been a heck of a lot worse. It was a challenge, but there's always somebody out there that had a worse situation than myself. But I also give it a lot of credit that I think it helped me form my whole personality. It helped me form the person who I want to be as a grown-up. It helps me be a parent today and knowing the struggles and trying to make sure that I do everything possible for my child.
Right.
It's been really formative. So that part of it was really, it was a challenging time.
Well, the lesson that you described, I think one of the lessons that you took away from this traumatic experience was that, again, I think in general in life, you have a very good positive attitude. I think in life in general, when you focus on, what you don't have, what you're missing, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you continue to get deeper and deeper into your own little pity. But the reality is, you realize based on looking around this Shriners Hospital that, granted you had some challenges at the time, but there were some other children that were experiencing some things that they may not be able to come out of, frankly.
It really is. And mine was, to the outside person, I had a limp. I was never a fast kid. But you look at some of the Boston Shrine Hospital they have for Burns kids. These kids are living every day on face forward with their scars and having to deal with growing up in that type of situation. I never had that type of pressure. I was never really, I got into a few fights as a kid growing up when kids would call me a cripple or whatever, because you never want to be referred to as a crippled.
Right.
Even to this day, a few years ago, I had a hip replacement and I was laid up for a while, and I was offered to have a handicap plate, and I refused. I said, no, really, I don't want to become a handicap plated person. I want to be above and beyond that.
Right.
That's something that a person that really needs it. I don't need it. I just felt like it was going to be one of those stigmas that if I was labeled as that, I would fall into that role, and I never wanted to be done that way.
Gotcha. That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I think I do think like nowadays, certainly, I know you have kids, I have kids, but nowadays it's so much concentrated on the visual, the appearance, and the self-esteem associated. You can't get self-esteem by some of the things that we do on the exterior. Those are all things that we need to work on inside, and I feel like I see more and more common these days with young adults that they do spend a lot of time, and really the media portrays this level of happiness associated with how you can physically appear and so on and so forth. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
My thing is the mental health aspect of it. I mean, we're always so focused, and obviously physical health is really important, but I'm more scared for my daughter's mental health well-being down the road with social media, with everything being done online now, and the peer pressure that's being put upon them by other kids in their classes. When we were growing up, and I say this is from raising a daughter versus being a boy growing up, somebody did us wrong, we'd punch them in the nose, but 5 minutes later, we'd probably be best friends and playing on the playground again.
Right.
Nowadays, with all the threats on social media, people hiding behind usernames and things like that, I'm terrified for when my 8-year-old starts getting into that environment. I can help her with, physical fitness, eating right, but when it comes down to, will she talk to me when she has these problems? Will she be able to have that outlet of saying somebody that she can trust? Will she have good friends to be able to go back to? Those are the things that worry me more as a parent than the actual physical well-being. There's the mental well-being, and I think there needs to be more awareness of that and more parental controls of that.
Big time.
So
I agree. I think, and it's one of those things. It's like in a chain. It's like you can have like 10 strong links of a chain, but if there's one weak link, then the whole chain is weak, right?
Yep, that's
and
correct.
so when you think about as we raise kids in this beautiful town of Bangor, which again I think a lot of us have chosen this area because of the fact that we are somewhat limited in the amount of crime here, in the amount of negative influences here. So we've chosen that for a reason. But to your point, the social media aspect, if as parents we start to guide that, but then there's one parent that is not paying it, that is virtually paying zero attention, and that's going to happen.
Yep.
We all have to kind of manage that.
I definitely agree. I think cyberbullying is something that you hear about on the news, but is it being taken seriously? More emphasis needs to be placed upon controlling the cyberbullying. I think it's the new pandemic that kids are going to be facing.
It is,
the new illness. So all it takes is 1 or 2 bad seeds in a class of 100 kids, and then the next thing you know, it's spreading like wildfire.
That's it.
So
that's it. And they're not. And nowadays, I don't think the teenage population is as strong mentally as maybe, and maybe I'm wrong. I'm comparing it to when we were growing up. Like if you were getting picked on, to your point, I mean, I punch a guy in the face, or then your buddies, or they know that that's not going to happen anymore, whether you win or lose, right?
Yeah.
At least they know that you're going to fight it out, or you're going to, and that's changed. I mean, and I'm not promoting that by any means.
No, not any means, but
I'm just saying, like back then, it seemed like it was a simpler environment,
quicker, easier resolution, and it wasn't something that dragged on, and it wasn't something that became a virus across multiple people and being dragged into it also.
Exactly, and it's not like it spread like wildfire. Now all of a sudden, the entire school is aware that you're kind of on this. You're being pinpointed as a person of. As a victim.
Going back to the point you just made, raising a child in Bangor it's a fantastic area. I've traveled across the country with my job. I've visited different cities and I've seen different environments. And coming from Mercer County, second to none, it was one of the best places to grow up as a kid.
Yeah.
Literally, mom and dad let you out of the house in the morning. You go play for the rest of the day at aunts and uncles' houses for lunch. Come back before the sunset, and everything was safe. Bangor, obviously I'm not letting my daughter out the house first thing in the morning and then not seeing her till sunset, but there is a level of security that this area provides. The education systems, the opportunities that we have. We were just talking about having a national park 1 hour away and being able to bring your child to go enjoy the outdoor experiences. Bangor has been a fantastic place to grow my business and to raise a family. So I'm really happy here. I've had opportunities to go to other places, but what it comes back to is Bangor is the right place for us. So it's been great.
Nice. Yeah, I gotta say, man, my wife and I laugh and we joke around. We're like, growing up in Canada, I'm like, okay, so where can you see yourself at 43? I think I'm gonna be in Bangor, Maine, with 3 kids. So it's just funny, but yeah, it suits us here. It's because again, to your point, we've lived in Boston, we've lived elsewhere, and right now there's a nice mix of things to do, but it's quiet, it's peaceful. You have Bar Harbor Acadia National Park, 45-minute drive away. People come from all over the globe to go visit these places. We have more lakes, in this region than most places, and we have the ability to have affordability when it comes to having a second home or summer camps, and so. It's a wonderful family environment. With
everything happening in the downtown area, with the concert venue, the excitement around Bangor to grow our business in this area also, it's fantastic. It's sad to see the mall and the retail locations kind of struggling in this time, but I'm also positive and seeing the places like Black Bear Brewing opening up a second tap room in downtown Bangor this weekend.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
It's an amazing time to be a Bangor person. It's really
I know
fun.
you don't like beer, but because we are getting a lot of microbrews downtown, it is a pretty sweet thing.
It is. It really is. And for
gives
people
us
that say there's nothing to do in Bangor,
Yeah.
you really are not looking. I mean, we always say that, but just this past weekend, looking at the opportunities, what you had going on, is there something going on at the Gracie? Is there something going on up to Orono? Is there something going on downtown?
Yeah.
There's always science festivals and kids things. And
the home show is going
show.
on. So yeah.
I mean, in Aroostook County, we did say there wasn't a lot to do. It was kind of boring. And in some ways it was, but that's why the quiet life really worked well. But down here, there's opportunities to do something every weekend. So
agreed. So now switching topics, you and Dina have been married for how long?
we've been married for 10 years.
So you're the big decade. So you're hitting the decade, and I would love to get your perspective on, from a married man's perspective. You have your daughter is
8 years old.
8 years old.
Yep,
Yeah. So
Claire's
Claire's 8. Tell me a little bit about essentially what your perspective is on married life and the pros, the cons, the challenges, and how you overcome it. What's your principal philosophy on?
That is my number one
lasting that
partnership. I'd say that's my number one partnership. When you look at this, we always talk about business partners and trying to strategize and how to grow and stuff like that. But I think your number one business partner starts right at your house. Who do you have as your support system? Who is going to be there to help you out with struggling? When you have struggles, when you have decisions to make, who's your sounding board? So that's where it really started off. Is that Dina and I had a great foundation set ahead. We were friends, like I said. We knew each other for 5 or 6 years before we even started dating.
Okay.
And so having that friendship, understanding of each other, coming from the same area, similar values, I think that all helped us establish a really healthy relationship from the start. Moving forward, Dina was a commercial P&C agency, a property and casualty insurance agent in town.
Yep.
She had that license and everything. And so when we had our first child, we made the decision, does she return to work or does she stay home and help us focus on other things? Mm-hmm. And ultimately, we decided to have her stay home. We adjusted some things in the household. We adjusted the budget, but we made it work because we knew this is what our priority was.
Okay.
And it helped me grow the business because I knew that I had a partner back at home that if I'm on the road for 3 or 4 nights, staying in a hotel, traveling around the country, I had a reliable person that was going to be there to help out with any type of doctor's appointment, school issues, anything that was going to be happening. And it allowed us, we bought a few different properties that she now manages.
Yeah. She was taking care of your number one asset,
She's
your
taking
daughter.
care of my number one asset. We always joke around that when my daughter went to pre-K for the first time, she never had a sickness. She never got a cold, flu. She was in a great, healthy environment. We felt that she was already ahead of the game because of the time that Dina was spending with her, reading and writing and everything else.
Right.
It was a huge investment, but it was also some great special time. And for me, it really allowed me not to have any guilt when I was, if I had to go work and I had to be on the road, I had that person back at the household that was really there to support
So
us.
you were guilt-free going into that environment.
Yeah, and so
That's
here
nice.
I am,
you
working.
can go conquer the world when you know that there's
And if you have something pulling you back at home, you're going to be lesser in your
most
career. You're going to
definitely.
be, you're going to be held back in other business
Way less
opportunities.
productive.
Way less productive. So that's been great. It allowed us to grow the business that I've had here in the Central Maine area. We've had a great relationship. We do things that are, it's kind of funny how we've morphed from being those 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds that were looking to go out and go downtown on a Friday night and do whatever it was, go to Ramada, Barnaby's, whatever. We've now morphed into going down and having a nice pint of beer on a Friday night, heading back for Netflix at home and not really doing a whole lot, enjoying family time.
I love it. That's awesome.
But that's what we love. It's our life, and we love our life, and everything's gone great with that.
So interestingly enough, it sounds like you guys don't fight. That's nice.
No. There's always opportunities for that.
That's pretty nice. Well, if you let's say hypothetically speaking, you guys get into a situation where you disagree about something to do, and let's say your daughter. Let's say you have 2 different parenting ideas and perspectives. How do you go about that? What's your
thing is
for those out there that are having a hard time getting through that situation?
Mine is trying not to lose my temper. The minute I lose my temper, the minute I walk out of the room, the minute I throw something up in the air and just forget it and I storm off, I've lost the battle. I've lost any type of say that I might have had. It's really trying to work through the feelings, work through the frustrations. Same thing with Dina. We'll have fights, we'll have disagreements, but after a 24-hour cool-off period, whatever it might be, the next morning we get up and have a sane conversation. Get ourselves back on the table. What's the best interest for the family? And it really comes back to that foundation of knowing your foundation, knowing what your beliefs are, how you want to raise your family. Don't lose sight of that. Things come and fly. We call flybys. Something will piss us off in the day activities, and how do we deal with it? How do we go forward? the great thing is, I think we're really on a really good page when it comes to raising Claire. We really have.
Nice. So you're pretty aligned when it comes to raising Claire.
We are, and we only have the one child,
Yeah.
and it's really we're able to focus all of our love and attention to that one child.
Yeah.
We really have a good philosophy ahead of time what we knew how we wanted to raise this child.
Okay.
Usually, if it's our fights, it's usually over something that might have happened through the business activities or something that I didn't.
Yep.
I'll tell you first off, I'm the biggest idiot when it comes to remembering simple chores, simple duties, and simple
Okay.
things. And Dina runs a tight ship. I always say that our house
Yep.
is immaculate. She keeps things going like a well-oiled engine. And
So if you miss an oil change, or if you miss
if I come tromping through the house with muddy boots and not even pay attention to what she just got done scrubbing, and then I say, "What's the big deal?" That doesn't go over well. So those are the things that you just have to be self-aware on some of these.
Scott, interestingly enough, I've been there.
And the valuation, I always try to make sure she knows she's valued, because there was a stigma when other mothers were asking her, what's she do for her, what's your job, what's your career?
Right.
And she puts a lot of pressure on herself that she feels like she needs to make sure that she's valuing what she does as a stay-at-home mom, keeping the household going. And so sometimes I lose sight of making sure that I'm appreciative of that.
Yeah.
I'm not just taking for granted that when I walk across this muddy floor that somebody's going to come behind me and pick it up after me.
Right.
Or that there's times when she says that, time out, I need help around the house. I need this to be done. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Instead of me goofing off this weekend and going off to go to camp, we need to stick around and do our chores.
And do some of these things.
And so that's the thing is, just really being conscious of the time that she spent all day long.
Gotcha.
And when we first had our daughter, that was one of the things that she was home all day with this baby.
Right.
Sickness, diapers, whatever it was she was dealing with, she was the one that was taking the point from 7 a.m. until 5:30, 6 o'clock when I got home.
Right.
So it wasn't going to be me walking in the door, grabbing a beer, sitting down, watching Red Sox highlights. It was me taking time to actually, what can I do to help you? Do you need to go out?
Right.
We talked about Dina's really big into CrossFit now, making sure, okay, she wants to get to the gym. That's one of her mental health goals, also her physical goals. If she can't do it during the day because of some conflict,
right,
I need to get home that night to give her the relief that she can go off and do what she needs to get out of the house. So,
well, what would you tell, if you were let's say 10 years back, you could tell someone who's starting a family and that transition into the home, from husband coming home, you've probably had a long day at the office, maybe stress levels high, you still get some business items on the mind. You're coming in and you also are realizing that, Dina is in a position where she's been with a child, an infant, for 8 hours. What's the best way to maybe avoid some of the pitfalls that are associated with that?
One of the things I used to do, and I used to get me in, I don't like to say trouble, but bringing home that laptop, bringing the work home, even when I was there at 5:30, being not present with my family, knowing that I had deadlines or I was trying to work on things. I was going to, bring this, I'll work on the weekend. Maybe I'll take a half a day Saturday. I really try to focus on, okay, I need to get all my stuff done. If that means I have to stay for an extra 30 minutes at the office, I need to be able to come home and detach away from everything at work. If you try to do too much and bring the work into the house, you're missing out on the family time. You're really going to jeopardize other parts of your relationships.
Right.
So I think that was one of my biggest learning lessons is when I was trying to grow this business, trying to be the entrepreneur, trying to move things along, sacrificing family time, knowing that I always justified it in my head, this is going to be better for us 10 years down the road. This will be better for us 20 years down the road. What happens when it is 10 years down the road and you're still doing that same bad habit? You've never broke that habit.
Right.
You're now looking at potential divorce because work was more important to you than what it might have been.
Right.
So
Most definitely. I think that's a great lesson.
Yeah. I was able to really focus on that. And I knew that there were sacrifices I had to make at the beginning.
Yeah.
But I was able to move along with that and focus on the family. And as soon as my daughter came along, that's really what changed your world. When you see your child for the first time, you hold that baby, your world is completely different.
Yeah.
And I would say the other thing that was great for Dina and I is to have that understanding. We didn't just jump into marriage. We didn't just date each other for 12 months and next thing you know, we're getting married.
Yeah, you knew each other pretty in depth. Yeah.
We knew that what our religious beliefs were. We knew what our philosophies are as far as how to raise a family.
Yep.
We knew how to balance out some different goals that we had in life. And Dina made a lot of sacrifices. I'll also give her that. This is a lady who bachelor's degree in political science with a minor in Russian. She spoke Russian when I first met her. I mean, she was a go-getter. She was an excellent writer. She's really, she's the brains behind our relationship. And when she took the step back to stay at home with Claire, that was a sacrifice.
Most definitely.
She had to make.
Yeah.
And I fast forward now, Claire's 8 years old. She's a great girl. I think a lot of it to do is because of the upbringing. But I need to make sure I'm always showing that appreciation to my wife and that role is valued. So.
Yeah, no, it's a huge sacrifice. And I mean, the reality is, listen, if you're going to have a child and you want to teach them the lessons and have, by all means, I think it's it's a big sacrifice, but and a lot of people
and we incorporate
struggle with that decision. I mean, I got to admit, I mean, listen, I'd say most people struggle with that decision in today's environment. You know, finances are a big play, and whether or not you can financially make ends meet with one person staying home. And if you can, typically that's taking away some of the wants, right,
Yep.
from that expense category, and just keeping all the must-haves in there. But not easy to do.
No.
You know, not easy.
And one
to
of the
do.
roles that Dina takes on is she is the household budget. She has everything planned out. If you ever joke around with her, she's got her little notebook of numbers that she carries
love
with her at all
that.
times. And she tracks everything on Mint Online. She knows the household expenses. She plans ahead 2 years in advance for vacations.
Wow.
She knows. And so the thing that I say, you know, I know how to run a business. I don't know how to run a household. She knows how to run the household.
Does she ever? Would she consult with my wife, Steph? Would she mind spending a bit of time with her? I'm not sure Steph's mastered that art yet.
Well,
but
that's
I'll be talking to her later on today. But
the funny thing is, everybody says, "Oh, well, you're the financial service firm. You do retirement plans. You must do your own." I'm like, no, really. My wife is more intelligent on this stuff. She's got the college savings accounts down packed. She knows exactly what's flowing in and what's flowing out of that household budget. So
That's funny.
And the joke is, if I go to Dunkin' Donuts and I use my credit card, she knows immediately what's being charged, and so she can track everything. So
well,
we run
maybe
a
she
tight
shouldn't
ship.
meet with my wife then. Actually, cancel that idea. I need a little bit of that freedom. I'm just kidding. Well, I guess I really appreciate you coming today, and I think what we'll do is I'll put for those of you who are interested in finding more about Scott, I'll put your website address on the link in the YouTube channel. But by all means, subscribe. YouTube Canuck Investments is my website name, Canuck-investments.com. There's a podcast section, and I'll put all this information in there. And really appreciate you taking the time today, and it was great to chat in some detail. So,
All right, thanks, Phil. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, take care.